Happy New Year, fiends.
Happy New Year! Happy New Fear!
I am here with David Howard Thornton,
Yes!
who you would know as Art the Clown. And we have been hanging out at the Gettysburg, well, it's not the Gettysburg, it just happens to be in Gettysburg, Pop, Rock, and Evil New Year's. And it has been awesome. And why aren't you here? You know, just as a little bit of a pitch, you still can get here because the event runs from 11 to 4.
Get here.
Get here, or Art will come to get you. I am so delighted to be sitting next to David. Sitting across from him yesterday, it was just so fun because he's so nice and fun and funny and the complete opposite of Art the Clown. But
Good.
So many people, in a good way.
In a good way. People are dying.
You know, I say that. But the funny thing is that you're very physical.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the first thing that, when I watched Terrifier, that I noticed about Art, is that since he's nonverbal, he's very physical. And in fact, the first time I met you, we talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
That's clearly something that comes naturally for you because that's how you are when you are talking to people. And so, is there that role? Even though you're the second actor that played Art, it seems like it was made for you. How did you come across it?
I was just lucky. I was in the middle of being unemployed for a little bit after I had come back from a tour, and it was more like I was deciding to do that because I just wanted to spend time auditioning. And I had been up for 4 different Broadway tours, and final callbacks, and all those fell through. And I was like, ugh. And then I came across this audition notice for Art, and they were looking for a tall, skinny guy with clowning or physical comedy experience to play him. And I went in and booked the role, had my agent submit me and everything like that. Went in there, had a crazy audition where I had to improv a scene where I decapitated a guy. And I did it, and they were laughing their heads off, and they've now I think put it online so you can see the audition. I don't want to spoil anything. Yeah.
So they just said decapitate a guy. They didn't give you.
Yeah, and I had to come up with a scene right there where I snuck up on a guy, cut off his head, tasted the blood, didn't like the taste of the blood, so I took out a salt shaker and seasoned it, and liked it, and skipped out on my merry way. And they were like, cast him, and so I went. They'd hey, can you come in for a makeup test? And the rest is history. And it's so funny because here I was up for all those tours, and if I had gotten any of those tours, I wouldn't have either been able to audition or I wouldn't have been able to film it. So everything worked out the way it was supposed to work out. So
it was meant to be.
Yeah. So that's how I've just realized about life is sometimes you just got to go with the flow, and whatever happens, happens. You're like, oh, cool. This is the journey I'm on. Okay, cool. Buckle up.
Now you were saying that you were done with a tour. What were you?
I had just finished touring my 5th and final tour with How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the musical.
Cool.
I was Grandpa Who in that, and I was also the understudy for the Grinch, and our Grinch was the wonderfully talented Stephen Carl, who was Robbie Rotten on the children's show Lazy Town. And he was a great physical comedian, and I learned a lot being his understudy. He really helped me fine-tune my skills, because I had never, I grew up doing a lot of physical comedy, because I love, the old comics from back in the day, the silent film actors, and I always were Mr. Bean, and I would always Jim Carrey, Doug Jones, and it always kind of modeled what I was doing after those greats before me. And Stefan had that same style, and I had never had anybody that could really help me fine-tune all of that, because he was an expert in that area. And so I put a lot of Stefan into Art, and I like to think I'm carrying on Stefan's legacy, because unfortunately he passed away back in now 2 years ago, because New Year, but he passed away from cancer. So I like to say he's kind of living on in a different way.
So the genesis of Art started in the musicals then? Yeah,
in musical theater. Because especially when you're on stage, you have to be bigger to reach the back of the auditorium. Especially when you have a 2,000 seat auditorium, you have to have bigger actions. And usually on film, you you can't do that because the camera picks up so much. I mean, I probably look like I'm like just my arms are flying everywhere on this right now, but it's the smallest gestures are picked up by a camera, so you usually have to condense that. But with art, I'm allowed to kind of go a little bit larger with things with him, so that's it's fun.
To a degree, I guess you'd have to, with him being nonverbal. Everything is expression and physical. So, not to get into any spoilers or anything, but speaking of art, I'm pretty fascinated by him, by his character. Not so much even the serial killer aspect. Are you going to touch on that at all? Without any spoilers, in Terrifier 2?
Like you're talking about what, like who he is? Or?
Yeah, kind of like
a little bit.
History
a little
or...
bit. I mean, that's the thing about him. It's like we like to leave that mystery there about him. Like, we'll reveal a little bit, and if you're like astute, you'll pick up on a little bit more. Because we drop some clues here or there in there about who he is and why he's, well, not necessarily why he's doing what he's doing. I think that's kind of just given. He just enjoys doing what he's doing. But and the third one, we have a third film in mind, and we want to like do a little bit more into his background maybe in that one, but we don't want to just give everything. I think he's kind of like the Joker, where you're not really supposed to know who he is.
That makes sense.
It's like that little bit of mystery is a little bit of fun.
So there shouldn't be too much into, you shouldn't cover your eyes too much and say, I can't watch, because you might miss one of those little...
Exactly. It's like, oh, that's... Oh.
I don't know if I imagined this, or if I read this, or if you said it, but were your parents in the theater? Is that what kind of moved you in that direction?
I oddly enough, I started doing church theater, which is ironic. It's like, now I'm like, ah! But I was, my mom directed a lot of plays back at our church way back in the day in Huntsville, Alabama, and my dad would do the plays as well. And then from that, I got involved in doing the community theater, because I was very shy when I was in middle school, especially because I moved to a new school. No one knew me there, and I was a little short little nerd with glasses and braces and high-pitched voice because I was late with puberty. Yay. But so easy target there in Alabama when everybody's about football. So so it's like easy target. So and I was always kind of funny at home, and mom's like, has anybody ever seen the side of you? And I'm like, no, they don't let me. And she's like, well, you should try out for like some of the shows in the choral program. So they were doing Mickey's Christmas Carol that year in 8th grade, and I said, go out for Mickey. You do a good Mickey. And I'm like, okay, sure. And got the role, and we're on stage that night, and we had some mishaps happen on stage, and I just started improvising right there on stage, and I had everybody just laughing their heads off and eating out of the palm of my hand, and I was like, I like this power. For once, they're not laughing at me, they're laughing with me, and that kind of just set my path in life right there. And I just started auditioning for like community theater productions, and I finally got cast in those, and it just snowballed from there.
It's interesting because I've heard, of course, Kane Hodder's talked about having been bullied, and you've talked about being bullied, and you just think, wow, what a world we live in. If these kids only knew. That one of these days.
Yeah, it was funny. I went back to my high school reunion recently, about a year ago, and that was really funny going back, and I'm like,
Oh my gosh, that would be wonderful.
Because it was right after we had released on Netflix all these people that were like kind of mean to me back then. Like, oh my God, I just saw your movie. You're like,
That is great.
Remember what you used to do to me? Yeah.
This is me now.
Yeah. That was like every geek's dream come true. Go back to a reunion like that.
So
like,
much. So much.
I was
and in fact, I
humble
think
and
you're
sweet
giving all of we geeks and weirdos out there a lot of hope for the future.
You never know. It was a revenge of the nerds. It was kind of... Well, that's what I noticed. It's like all of us that were the geeks back in the day, we're all the ones that moved out of my hometown and went out and did really neat things with our lives. We really lived our lives. Those that were like the jocks and the cheerleaders, that's when they basically peaked in life, it seemed like, at least in my school. They all stayed there and just got married and settled into that life, and they're still trying to recapture those days. And I was like, And I always felt like when I was younger, I was like, I can't just sit here and just stagnate. I have to do something more with my life. I feel like there's more out there. So.
And there absolutely is. And there's more Terrifier and more, even beyond that, Terrifier 2, Terrifier 3.
Yeah,
and,
who knows? Terrifier in space. I don't know.
A couple of us were chit-chatting yesterday, and may even been within your hearing, about how we can just see Art becoming like the new Freddy, you know, and and in fact, you and I did mention that it was Robert Englund was about your age when he first started doing Freddy, and it just seems like I kind of see a franchise in the making, and it really is. It's got to be interesting to you because you're portraying him, and everywhere people have Art the Clown shirts and are in your cosplay, and
Terror Threads. Buy some at terrorthreads.com.
Woohoo!
Shameless plug.
Oh well. Speaking
know.
of shameless plugs, I am delighted that I'm having the good fortune to interview David, and he is also a member of the Facebook horror convention and event group that I'm involved with. If you want to know where he's going to be, when I find out, I always post it on there.
I need to post more.
We need to get him to post more.
I need an assistant. Because I have some conventions coming up. I'm doing Astronomicon in February in Detroit, the 7th through the 9th, I think. And then I'm doing 3 conventions in March. I'm doing Days of the Dead in Las Vegas. I'm doing, oh God, I can't think all of a sudden. It's too early in the morning. I had too much fun last night. Yeah, I'll post them all eventually.
Speaking of last night, those of you who weren't there, how did the karaoke go?
Oh, as you can tell, my voice is a little bit rough this morning. I had some fun. You get me in front of a microphone, it's like, oh boy. So I enjoyed it. We had fun last night, I think. They had some moonshine. Some people brought some moonshine to this, like, flavored moonshine.
So people came up from where you live. They.
Oh no! I guess locals around here. But I was like, oh, it was good. It was good moonshine. I was like, wow, dangerous though. Danger.
Well, I think on that note, thank you very much.
You're welcome. And on that note, you said drunk. No.
I got nothing against drunks.
No. I'm good. I behave. I know when to cut myself off.
Actually, if you do have the good fortune to run into David, and they do have at a convention or anywhere a karaoke, this guy's going to be up there and pay attention because he's just fun. And you're good. You're musical. You're very, very talented. So
thank you.
Since we didn't get to see you as the Grinch in the Grinch musical.
Oh, poop.
we were talking about voice actors yesterday.
Yes.
And is that something that you would ever think about doing?
I've done some. I've done voiceover work in video games and some animated series. Like my most recent series was The Bravest Knight, that's seen on Hulu. It's for little ones, and I do a lot of critters in that. So I play like a bunch of goats. I just went in and meh all day. I play a little chipmunk, and I play a newt.
So what does a chipmunk sound like? That is so cute.
That's all I did. And like the newt was just like he just made these little, he spat fireballs. It was just like, I got paid to do this. I love life.
So the Day of the Dead con, people are going to show up with pictures of like the newts.
Yeah,
this
little newt.
That would
cute
be
little
wonderful.
guy too. It's a great show though. They have a lot of celebrities on it and stuff like that. So it's a really cute.
And that's
show.
on Hulu.
It's on Hulu. Yeah,
Okay.
Bravest Knight. Yeah.
Check it out.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us here, and keep your eyes out and go see this guy if you can. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.